Hello, dear friends. This is Kira Rudik, member of Ukrainian parliament and leader of the political party Holos. I'm speaking from Kiev, Ukraine. Today we will talk about recent Russian massive attacks on Kiev and other cities in Ukraine, about the shortage of fuel in Russia and what it means, and also about practical steps that need to be taken by our partners so that we can see towards the end of the war. But before we start, please subscribe to this channel and like this video. Please also leave a comment. I really, on a personal note, enjoy reading them and replying to them, which gives me a way to communicate with you, my audience. Thank you. So, for the last week, Russia has launched two massive attacks on Kiev on Thursday night and this night, and they killed in total more than 30 people, injuring dozens, and the rescue workers are still working towards trying to find people after this last attack. I'm honestly shocked, though, we think that we stopped being shocked a while ago, because our military are reporting that Russians have attacked the same objects in Kyiv on the Thursday attack and this night's attack. And these are not some military objects or even infrastructural ones. These are just residential buildings. And while our emergency services are still trying to rescue people from under the rubble, we need to acknowledge again and again that Russia is doing it deliberately, and they are acting as a cornered rat because they see that there is no way to push forward at the front line, though they are reporting that they do, but they don't. And the only way for them to move forward is to continue desperately attacking us, hoping that it will break our spirits and hoping that they will pressure us into submission. This will not happen. Meanwhile, in Russia, it's a very complicated situation with the fuel. So mostly all the cities and towns, including Moscow, including all the others, they experience shortages of fuel, and it's impossible for propaganda to cover it because the lines to the gas stations are really huge and everybody sees that. And so at some point it was just impossible to hide. And so Russian propaganda started acknowledging that, and their message to Russian people is that we have experienced it before in 1917 when West was trying to pressure us. We should not allow them to do it again. We should keep tight, hold tight, and then we will prevail. This is important because in many of my colleagues from different countries' minds, Russia is fighting with Ukraine that is supported by some Western allies. The truth is, Russia is fighting with the West. In their mind, they are fighting with NATO, and even openly in their propaganda, they want to expand and destroy NATO as a whole. And it is so important that our partners realize that Ukraine is on the forefront of the Russia's fight with NATO. And this is why when there are some delays and some hesitations on the support for Ukraine, this is the critical thing to keep in mind. Because if, God forbid, Ukraine fails, then it will be very hard, almost impossible to protect NATO against Russian forces that are trying, and again, going with this holy war. It is critical to understand this also because there is this illusion that you can offer Putin something and he will agree for a peace deal. In their minds, there should not be any peace deal with the West because they are on this holy march forward to destroy West that wants to destroy them. And in this matter, offering them to go back to G8 or to continue trade with the whole world is not something that neither Putin nor his surroundings will accept. It is critical to always keep in mind when there are political decisions made, because sometimes it's easily forgotten that this fight is much more broad than many remember. In the meantime, there are still questions on how and why Russia was able to manufacture at least 30 ballistic missiles that they sent our way this night. It's very clear that it's hard for Ukraine to take down ballistic missiles, and we are really dependent on our American partners on that, because the Patriot missile systems are the key ones to take down ballistic missiles. But the question is, how is it possible that 4.5 years into the sanctions, Russia is still able to manufacture ballistic missiles at scale? And there are two answers to that. The first one is that they do have the resources. How are they getting those resources? Is by trading with European Union still and receiving money from sending the energy resources there, and also by trading with China and India and getting an enormous amount of money there. Also, of course, the temporary lifting of the sanctions by the United States really helped Russia to accumulate enough of the resources for manufacturing of the ballistic missiles. But there is another side of things, is how is Russia able to use those money to purchase the particles? There is a limit of what Russia can produce within itself for the ballistic missiles, and the other parts they are constantly getting from the countries who say that they support Ukraine, but then for some reason the particles for ballistic missiles manufactured in those countries appear in Russia. This happens again through China, through India, through Kazakhstan, through many others who increased their volume of trade since the beginning of full-scale invasion. For example, Kazakhstan increased their trade with Germany. Surprise, surprise. Why and how? But this is what is happening. And when we are saying that sanctions are not working, it's not only that they are not working to limit Russia's ability to make money, but also they are not working to stop Russia of being able to purchase particles for the ballistic missiles. This is why they are the practical steps of our partners to really respond to Russia's massive attacks on Ukrainian civilians is to make sure that the sanctions actually work. It's not that nobody knows how Russia is getting those particles and which paths they are using. Sanctioning is unpleasant, it is hard, it requires adding more monitoring to the trade routes of dual-use products, and of course, sanctioning additional companies and additional ships, for example, means that some people who still continue trading with Russia 4.5 years into full-scale invasion will have to pay more. Let me give you an example. We, as of right now, know about at least 1,500 ships in Russia's shadow fleet that are used to trade and make money for Russia for their different sorts of energy resources, but only 632 of them are being sanctioned. The question is, what's with the rest? It's not even half of them. And what is the proper way of moving forward? Why would European Union and our other partners not go ahead and sanction everything that they have at the table? So it's a complex political question because every country is going through their own election circle and they are on a different path. So, but when people are asking what else can be done to support Ukraine, it's not that we are reinventing the wheel. We are saying the same things and they need to be done. The main issue of why we are at this point in time is hesitance from many political leaders to go all the way instead of trying to do it piece by piece, chunk by chunk, because we obviously see that this approach doesn't really work. And the proof of that is the amount of ballistic missiles that are being sent our way. And we understand that Russia's stockpiles are not really empty, so they're able to produce even more. Also, right now, when we are talking, the European Union is considering the 21st package of sanctions. And there was this really great idea of denying European visas to the soldiers and the families who took part in the special operation against Ukraine. I think this is even more necessary for Europe itself, not for Ukraine, because you wouldn't have really murderers with their families spending money that they made on the war in Paris, in Brussels, in Nice, or anywhere else. And limiting them is the right thing to do to protect your own citizens. Unfortunately, right now, it seems that certain countries are objecting to that, and they only want to limit the sanctionings with the warnings. Really, have ever warning worked against the aggressor? And this is what is so upsetting about the decisions that are being made. On one hand, we hear the questions, what else can be done for Ukraine? On the other ones, the realistic steps that are not even for the sake of Ukraine are not being taken. I really hope that within the negotiations between the European countries, there would be some common sense, that there would be some normality and understanding that using like those little steps would not lead to any significant result. And again, we are looking at the next years where there would be elections in France, in Germany, in many other countries, and there could be really different leaders who would come to power who may have a really opposite stance on Ukraine. And that's why it is so critical to use this opportunity this time right now, both to support Ukraine, but also to pressure Russia and make sure that European citizens are being protected. This is so obvious to me that it's emotionally hard to have to explain it, but still we understand that we have to. But no matter what happens, I want to assure you, my viewers, that we continue fighting, that we continue pushing, and the last night and the nights before, they are of course hurtful, but they are not breaking us and our spirits. And we only know that our path is towards the future. Our path is the path forward. We will continue supporting our army. We will continue working on the international arena. And we know that we can win this war, and we will do it. Thank you. And glory to Ukraine. You wanted to see some more cats? So here is Draco.